What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Ezra Rozier here. Now, I'm going to keep it real with you guys. I'm going to keep it 100. I was not in a good place following our loss to the Cowboys on Christmas Eve last week. I was devastated after that game. And it started out so well, too. Dak Prescott threw a pick six to Josh Sweat. We were up 10-0. I'm going to go over to positives first. So, Gardner Minshew, in relief of Jalen Hurts, he played a pretty solid game. He went over 300 yards. A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith both had over 100 yards receiving. Devontae Smith especially had a great game, a couple of touchdowns. On our second to last drive, he had an amazing catch on the sidelines, kept his feet in bounds to keep that drive alive. But just so many mistakes, so many mistakes. We had 4 turnovers in that game. Now, the 2 interceptions by Minshew, I believe those weren't really Minshew's fault. I more so blame Quez Watkins on those 2 interceptions because both times Quez Watkins got out-muscled by the Cowboy defenders. He got out-muscled by the Cowboy defenders both times. Like, he's got to fight harder for that ball. I love Quez Watkins, and I stood by Quez Watkins after he had that fumble in our previous loss, the other loss of the season against Washington on Monday night. I stood by Quez Watkins after that play. But this Dallas game, you got to fight for the ball, Quez Watkins. You got potential, man. I've seen your potential, but you didn't fight for the ball that time. You didn't fight for the ball. Both times he got out-muscled by the Dallas defenders. And then you had the fumble. So this is what I do blame Minshew for. The first fumble, I believe it was Boston Scott. I think that was because of a poor handoff by Gardner Minshew. He tried to hand off the ball too high. That's what it looked like to me personally. I was at this game. It was my first trip to AT&T Stadium, and it was a loss. That bothers me. That greatly bothers me. The first fumble, I think Minshew could have handed off the ball better to Boston Scott. The second fumble by Miles Sanders with 2 minutes left to go in the game, I believe we were tied 34-34 at that point. That's inexcusable. Inexcusable fumble by Miles Sanders. Inexcusable. Like you got 2 minutes to go. You're on a drive. You're beginning a drive to take the lead. I honestly believe we would have took the lead on that drive. We would have took the lead on that drive. And Miles Sanders, he fumbles at a crucial time. And we had a chance to recover the fumble. Like, our offensive lineman, it looked like he got on the ball, but he still lost it, and Dallas recovers the ball. You cannot fumble when you're about to begin a drive with a tied game to take the lead with 2 minutes left. You can't fumble there, Miles Sanders. He had a fumble against the Chicago Bears the previous week. The previous week against Chicago, he had another fumble, and luckily that didn't cost us. But the turnovers in this game, they were the difference in this game. 4 turnovers. That's more than Dallas had in the first game this year when we beat them. When Cooper Rush turned over the ball 3 times, we turned over the ball more times than Dallas did in the first game. You're not going to win a game in the most generic, cliche line ever. You're not going to win a game with 4 turnovers. You're not going to do it, guys. And then the 4th and 8, we got fooled on a 4th and 8. Our defense, when Prescott, he threw the pass, it was a free play because we jumped on a 4th and 8. That worked. And then so the one thing that has really bothered me this season is how the Eagles can never seem to recover a fumble. We can never seem to recover a fumble, and it could be right there for the taking. There was a play on second down where Hassan Reddick, he sacked Dak Prescott, the ball came out, and Linval Joseph, it looked like he had a clear path. He had a clear pathway to that ball. All he has to do is recover the ball. It's right near him. It's right next to him. It's right there for the taking, and we don't recover the fumble. Dallas gets the ball back. You got to recover that fumble. Hassan Reddick, he gets the sack. He got the sack, and we failed to recover the fumble, and it was right there for us to get it. It was right there, and we let Dallas recover the ball. And then this was the worst play of the game, the worst play of the entire game. Right after we failed to recover that ball, 3rd and 30. It's a 3rd and 30 play. I'm in the stadium. I'm thinking wow, it's a 3rd and 30. What are they even going to do on this play? Dak Prescott, he drops back. He throws the ball deep, and they convert on 3rd and 30. T.Y. Hilton catches the ball to convert 3rd and 30. How? How do you let that happen? How do you let a team convert a 3rd and 30? I mean, I thought the previous week was bad when we let the Chicago Bears convert a 2nd and 27, but 3rd and 30? Do you know how easy it is to defend a 3rd and 30? It's comically easy to defend a 3rd and 30. You know that they're going to chuck the ball deep. They're not going to run the ball on that play. They're going to chuck the ball deep. Oh, I just misjumbled my words. They're going to chuck the ball deep. There's no other play call there. You know that they're going to throw it deep. And we could not defend that. We couldn't defend a 3rd and 30. We gave up a 3rd and 30 to T.Y. Hilton, the old dinosaur from the Indianapolis Colts. I hadn't seen that guy catch a pass in like 5 years. And we let them get a 3rd and 30 completion. That is unbelievable. That was when I had a feeling. That's when I realized, wow, we're going to lose this game. We really just let them convert a 3rd and 30. That was the longest third down conversion against the Eagles defense in 28 years. 28 years. For 28 years, we had not allowed a completion like that until last Saturday on Christmas Eve at AT&T Stadium. I just don't believe I just can't believe how you let a team convert a 3rd and 30 like that. That changed the game. If you stop them on that 3rd and 30, we get the ball back. I think we're up 37. No, we're up 34-27. If you stop them on that 3rd and 30, you win the game. You win the game, even with all the other turnovers before that. Well, the Sanders fumble happened after the 3rd and 30, but it's just inexcusable defense. Jonathan Gannon, I really I was giving him praise for a couple of weeks because he has earned praise this season. His defense has done a good job against teams like the Steelers, the Titans, the Giants. But this game, the zone coverage killed us. The zone coverage was our big liability in this game. Dak Prescott in the first half of this game, he was 16 for 18. And I think I saw a stat where Prescott, he was 24 of 24 against zone coverage. A perfect 24 of 24. I think that's what I read. Perfect completion percentage against zone coverage. And on the 3rd and 30 play, Darius Slay was catching a lot of heat, but Josiah Scott was the help over the top. He got there late. Josiah Scott didn't help any matters. Teams have been picking on Josiah Scott for weeks. For weeks, Josiah Scott has been a liability. He's Michael Jaquette reincarnated. And it is such a shame because Avonte Maddox was having a tremendous game. But after he sacked Prescott, he suffered a toe injury and he left the game. And then right when Maddox left, that's when they started picking on him. They started picking on Josiah Scott. Right when Maddox left that game, CeeDee Lamb was going off on us. Like, we were decent against the run. So in the first Cowboys game this year, we looked awful against the run in the second half after a strong first half. This game, I thought we were strong against Zeke and Pollard the whole time. Each of them were getting like 3 yards or less a carry. Like, we were holding them to like 3 yards a carry. That's pretty decent against that running back tandem. But the pass defense is what killed us. The pass defense. CeeDee Lamb was just destroying us. I think he had 2 touchdowns. CeeDee Lamb was killing us in this game. He killed us. He just dominated Philadelphia's defense all day long. And besides Avonte Maddox, Jordan Davis was also lost to a concussion in this game, and probably the worst injury, Lane Johnson. Lane Johnson, he suffered an abdominal tendon tear, and he will not play for the remainder of the regular season. And that stinks because if you look at our win-loss record without Lane Johnson, we are under 500. We do have a losing record without Lane Johnson. But Lane Johnson, in a testament to his toughness, he has decided to put off surgery until after the playoffs are over. So he's going to play through the playoffs with this torn abdominal tendon. And that's some real tough guy stuff from Lane Johnson. You really got to admire that from Lane Johnson. But so many mistakes in that game. 4 turnovers. The 2 interceptions that Quez Watkins got out-muscled on. Scott's fumble that Minshew could have handed off better. And then Sanders' inexcusable fumble. And even with all that, we still had a chance to win this game. We still had a chance. So after Sanders' fumble, the Cowboys had some awful clock management. Like Dak Prescott, he didn't slide on that 3rd down. Could have burnt more clock, but he didn't slide. So we held them to a field goal, and the Cowboys go up 40-34. On that final drive we had, Minshew was moving the ball down the field pretty fast. He was moving the ball down the field pretty efficiently. You had completions of Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, A.J. Brown. But then the drive stalled in the red zone. I believe we were at the 25-yard line, and we lost. Just our second loss of the season. And our first loss wearing the blackout uniform since 2018, which was coincidentally also against the Cowboys in Philadelphia, Sunday night game. It hurt. It hurt losing that game. The 3rd and 30 play, that is going to haunt my nightmares for a long time. That play is going to give me PTSD. A 3rd and 30. I just don't know how you let them complete that kind of play. That's what bothers me the most about that game. The fact that you committed that many turnovers and you still could have won the game. The fact that you gave up a 3rd and 30, that's what really hurts. And besides the fact that it was my first game at AT&T Stadium, but you know what? It's fine, guys. It's all good because you can make up for this by clinching the number 1 seed tomorrow against the New Orleans Saints. Now, I read some news about how Jalen Hurts is listed as doubtful for this game. He did return to practice this week, and by all accounts, he looked really good in practice throwing the ball, but I'm not expecting him to play. It looks like Minshew will get his 2nd consecutive start. And listen, you can lock up the division and the number 1 seed with a win over the Saints. You could put Christmas Eve aside. You could render Christmas Eve meaningless virtually just by beating the New Orleans Saints. Just one more win in these final 2 games, and we are the number 1 seed, guys. We're the number 1 seed. And it really needs to be in this game. I consider this a must-win game. The Cowboys game wasn't must-win. This Saints game is a must-win game because if you clinch the number 1 seed against the New Orleans Saints, I'm not playing anybody against the New York Giants. Maybe a series. Maybe one series. Play the starters for a series against the New York Giants because we have a lot of injuries going on right now. Jalen Hurts, Lane Johnson, Avonte Maddox, Jordan Davis. Like, I don't want any starters playing for a long period of time against the Giants. Like, if you win the Saints game, rest everybody against the Giants. I don't care about that game. Let New York have it. In fact, the Giants might be resting their starters in that game too because the Giants can clinch a playoff spot tomorrow if they beat the Colts. So if they beat the Colts, which I think they do because the Colts are a terrible team, they don't really have any reason to play their starters against the Eagles because they can't really improve their seeding. They're basically locked in at the 6th seed because I don't see the Cowboys. The Cowboys have the number 5 seed locked up. Nobody's touching them for that 5 seed. So the Giants, they should just rest their starters against the Eagles if they beat the Colts because there's nothing really else to play for. You can't improve your seeding. You're going to be the 6th seed. But if you beat the Saints, that is really good. We need this bye week, guys. We need this rest for our injured players. If you wrap it up against the Saints, that Giants game, you can rest all those guys. Then you get the rest from the bye week. And then you pop up in the divisional round. And hopefully everybody will be healthy enough for that game. But you got to wrap it up this Sunday, tomorrow. You got to wrap things up tomorrow against the New Orleans Saints. You got to wrap it up. The Saints, they're a weak offense, but their defense, they're a team that's really just mediocre on offense, but they're fueled by a strong defense. But here's the key thing about the Saints. So in years past, the Saints were renowned for having a hugely sturgent defense against the run. They were renowned for being very tough to run on. Now, in our last few meetings with the Saints, these last 2 meetings, we've run the ball relentlessly over the Saints. We've gashed the Saints on the ground. We've ran the ball to an extremely effective degree against the New Orleans Saints. It was Jalen Hurts' first start in 2020, and then last year in Week 11, we freaking trampled the Saints on the ground. So this run defense isn't even as good as those 2 teams that we played in the past. So the key to this game is running the ball. Run the ball well. If you run the ball well, you can beat the Saints. Gardner Minshew, I have no fear about Gardner Minshew. I have faith in Gardner Minshew. He played a really good game against the Cowboys. He put up 27 points against a Cowboys defense that people think is really good, although they haven't really been that good the last few weeks ever since that Texans game. But Gardner Minshew, he played well against the Cowboys. A lot of people, they were getting mad at Minshew after this loss. I'm like, Minshew played a decent game. The 2 interceptions, I really blame Quez Watkins for that. Like twice, Quez Watkins got out-battled for the ball. That's not Minshew's fault. You got to put that on the receiver. So just wrap things up against the Saints tomorrow. Please, please. Wrap things up. Just end this division race. The Cowboys really still think they have a chance in the division. They beat the Tennessee Titans backups on Thursday night. They still think they have a shot at winning the NFC East. And you know what? Let them celebrate. Let them think they have the shot. Let them keep their hopes up because we can drive the dagger through them on Sunday, tomorrow, by officially ending the race, by clinching the number 1 seed and the division in Philadelphia at Lincoln Financial Field in front of our fans. Just beat the freaking Saints. They're not that good. They're 6-9. They're 6-9. Just put them out of their misery. They're 6-9, and somehow they still have a chance to win that terrible NFC South division. Isn't that crazy? Just and freaking Andy Dalton, the carrot top, the red pop gun. I do not like Andy Dalton. That guy just bothers me. Like ever since I remember when J.J. Watt he made a joking comment after the Texans beat the Bengals, saying how they made the red rifle, that was his nickname, the red rifle look like the red BB gun. And Andy Dalton, he was legit salty after that. Like, dude, take a joke, man. Grow up, man. So what? He called you the red BB gun. Like, you're really gonna let that strike you personally? Like, oh my heart. Like, I don't like Andy Dalton. And Andy Dalton is 3-0 against the Eagles in his career. We have never beaten Andy Dalton. We've never beaten him. But that changes tomorrow. Tomorrow, we're going to beat Andy Dalton. And apparently, we're 12 sacks away from setting a franchise, actually, not even a franchise record, an NFL record for most sacks by a team in a season. I want us to get a few sacks on Andy Dalton. Pound him into the turf tomorrow. Andy Dalton, tomorrow you will lose to the Eagles. New Orleans Saints, you will fall in Philadelphia, and we will clinch the #1 seed in the NFC East division title. So take care, everybody, and go Birds.